Hello people, and welcome back to part 35 of Ilos and modded Cities Skylines build. Hope you're having a wonderful day. And I think we all know where we are, right? If you haven't seen, last week the amazing Imperator did a Phoenix inspired build in Ilos. It's over on his channel, so please go and check it out if you haven't seen it. But oh my god, this is so good. Oh, I am just as much a fan of Imperator as you guys are. So to have one of his builds in my city is just the biggest fangirl moment. He's absolutely nailed the Phoenix vibe just everywhere with the farming near the sort of residential and the condos as well. Oh my god. Yes please everyone. Yes please for Imperator building in Phoenix style. And of course he did this absolutely gorgeous single point urban interchange. And oh yes. This is just incredible. Oh my word everyone. Yes, serious fangirl moment for me over Imperator building in the city. Thank you so much for him if you haven't seen it. I also cried immensely over the node abuse here. All of this is network fencing. Oh my god, I'm so sorry Ilos. Yes, there's a lot of nodes used in this build. But my god, is it worth it, right? What a fantastic job Imperator did. So yes, please go and check it out on his channel. I'll also leave it linked down below and you can find it in the playlist. However, we are back in Ilos today, and there are holes appearing across the Mar grid. We definitely need to come in a live stream and just tidy up some of these spaces now. We're definitely going to get around to doing this soon. Let me know what you think should sit here. Anything special rather than just kind of more Mar grid inspiration. Maybe let you guys decide what sits up against the highway as we cross from Mar grid into the downtown space. However, in today's episode, what I would like to do is start bringing some infrastructure over on this side of the city alongside some industry that we started but never finished quite a while ago on the eastern edge of the downtown. So this in Phoenix, or what for Phoenix is actually the western edge, but because our map is actually facing this way, it's kind of flipped around, but you know what I mean. So in the west of real life Phoenix, there is a ton of industry out here. It's distribution warehouses basically as far as the eye can see. It's pretty insane. However, what we also have out here is sort of infrastructure, and we haven't built Ilos a power plant yet. You know, it has a prison, it's got some farmland over here, sort of general suburbia and all the individual builds, universities, and you know, all that sort of good stuff, and garbage treatment and water treatment over here. But we haven't built a dedicated power area, and of course, because we're in the desert and working with an Arizona-inspired build, we have to go for a solar plant, right? We can't do nuclear here like we usually do. Ilos's power plant has to be solar. So we're playing with some fun assets off of the workshop today. These should be quite fun. Otherwise, let's see what we can do with our first ever modded solar plant, shall we? Okay guys, so as always, let's start out with some road network frame stuff. So we know we work with Mar grid frames here, so we're going to be working in 100 by 100 grids. So I'm going to bring up a marker to 50 units here. Hopefully that's about equidistant. There we go. Turn off collision here as well. Then we'll be getting those 90-degree snaps, and this should give us a nice frame to work with our solar power plant today. Okay, so what I'm envisioning for this build is as we drive into the complex, the workers will actually drive past the solar panels themselves, which I think could work out to quite a nice aesthetic. So we're going to find the halfway point there, which should be 50 units. There we go. And then we'll bring this out and let's just have it go straight up for the time being, just as a base frame. And then we'll bring a little car park here, so let's go ahead and get ourselves some parking lot service roads. And again, I want just a little bit of respect for the detailing that's going to sit along this side of the road as well. We will have a generous look at the spy sample before we carry on any further. What I am actually imagining for these is kind of these thicker, greener, leafier trees to kind of line the road in. And then if we chuck down some solar panels, we can get a very cheeky look at the possible spy sample today. You know, as we drive in. Should be really cool. It's kind of been a difficult build to put together, this one, the solar plant. There's some very unique and gnarly inspiration in the world, but nothing that would quite fit Ilos. But I think we've got something tasty in mind here today. So of course, midday, the sun is right above us. They're facing right into the solar panels. So hopefully, again, for any solar panel fanatics in the world that are watching today, this should be more than acceptable. Super. So let's go ahead and get our parking lot road set up. So of course, we will go for some 22 meter lots, and we'll do batches of 10 here, I think. That's going to be most appropriate, isn't it? Sort of checking the scale within the complex. I think I'm happy with a little 20 unit measurement there. And then again, we'll leave those 5 unit distances between them. That should keep everyone happy. Should that we actually measured that one correctly though? That would be helpful. And there we go. Super. That gives us some initial car parking frames. A little bit of an entranceway, if you will. So definitely we can use some of our assets from the office specialization where we're playing with a bunch of the West Coast stuff. So I think what we can do here to construct something of a main entrance or admin building, if you will, is to piece together a few of these really cute West Coast sort of generic office assets. Because you can get some really, really nice shapes with these once you start piecing them together in different orientations and styles and whatnot. So that is what I think we will go for. And to be honest, that itself, just on its own there, isn't really a bad configuration as it is. Okay, we can get some really nice decoration and drive-by as we come along the highway here. I think this is quite Phoenix, right? See a little office outpost here. I think I'm going to go for it. Being bored. What we do want to do though is actually reset the main building with Move It, just so we can get the same sort of white stone colour. Just go past it. There we go, that's what we want, just so we got consistent building placements. That's going to be fine for me, I think. Going to be happy with it. Again, we can have a look at some detailing. Let's have a look at some of our sort of nicer trees here. You know, you imagine the solar plant would be one of the sort of nicer, more well-refined industrial service areas. You know, we're not looking at too many sort of pollutive assets here, not many broken crates and things along those sorts of vibes. Okay, but again, it's something I can get on board with from the opposite side of the highway here. Our apartment complex that we built so long ago now. And distracted for a brief moment. We see an elevating floating sun chair. Definitely the cause of an alien. Not sure what that is. But we'll leave it in there, it's lore now, okay? Super. This is great. This is really coming out quite nicely already, I think. So now I want to come into our rural roads and we are going to grab the small unit dirt road. Then we're going to draw this up and I want to leave, again, a little bit of a boundary between the arterial frames and the roads that are going to hold power production units. Okay, so let's leave again a further little bit of admin, maybe down this side. We can have that there, and then we can start to have a look at how we configure our solar panels here. So let's go in for one of them right here. And again, we just want to line that up now. I'm actually going to place it down and then just use Move It, sort of fine movement control to finagle exactly where I want it to sit. Not like that. I think about there should be appropriate. Right, and then once it's in, of course, we know what we can do. We can just duplicate this beast over. So we could line them up so it really fleshes out the pattern. And that's kind of gorgeous. I don't think I can really refuse that. Alright. Maybe we'll do one more of those patterns. Isn't Move It just an incredible mod? So good. It's just amazing. Alright, and then there we go. We'll have that one in as our first solar field. And then once we've got that pattern in, we can actually, can we draw up a little bit further? It does let us draw through them, which is a little bit weird. But I think they probably deserve that little bit of breathing room, don't they? So let's go for the tile over. And then we'll just use Move It to grab all of the buildings and then position them within this field. And then once we've messed about with Move It for a bit, we're left with a pretty convincing solar array, alright? I think I'm happy with this. It's not too bad, is it? Okay, we can get a general feel for it here. So each of these assets, they do produce power. If we have a look at them in the power menu, you see that they have a 11 to 16 megawatt power output. So you know they're going to be having 100% sunshine intensity pretty much all the time in Ilos because it's, you know, sunny all the time. We're in the desert here. So this should be really cool. So this is what I'm thinking generally for the solar panels here, okay? Let's go ahead and piece together a few more patterns of them. Maybe we can just go ahead actually and remeasure what distances we're playing with here. So now that's 22. Probably won't have enough room here to duplicate it again, but we can get very close to it. Let's go ahead and turn off road snapping. Yeah, so we can get to 20. That's fine for me. Then we get that in there. Then we just bring them over again. Plus this one's going to want to be slightly more well finagled, just because it's a little bit too deep. But again, a problem our friend Move It can deal with quite easily. Okay, I'm really happy with that so far. You can't really see them from this side of the road, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. What we can have a little chat about already is the introduction of some IMT network gear. So it's coming to the old faithful IMT, and we're going to set up a line here which we can then turn into a decorative network, which will then almost certainly become farm fencing if we can do it. Let's go for here somewhere, farm fence, there we go. And then yeah, we want to shift this way off the road so it's on the sand. That should be grand, and then we will do to apply to whole street, and then everyone is winning. Again, we can embellish the palette here. I want to make sure that at the peak time the shadow of the tree isn't at least overbearing it. Then we'll do a little bit of prop line tool here as well. Come head up to a fairly distant tree marker. Again, I know you can do this with IMT as well, but I'd rather have the placement myself. Right. And then as we're coming out of Ilos now, we're leaving the, you know, mass density of the Mar grid behind, and we're heading more rural, but also starting to respect that vibe in this part of the city as well, right? Moving back to some more refined tree patterns, a little bit of farm fencing, some dirt road. Everyone's having a nice time. But you can tell what it is, can't you? You can tell what it is. It's really cool. Super, super happy with it. So, of course, it wouldn't really be a fun build without trying to implement some of the vanilla gear into this build, for which we have a couple of different options. So I'm thinking what we can use the vanilla plants for is some sort of admin or housing. We can definitely get away with this one. The solar updraft tower might be of use. It could be. Boy, it's a big one. It is a big one. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. It might be a little bit too dominant. I think it's this one I'm more after. However, it does want some Bob action. So we're going to bring in our friend Bob. We're going to remove the hideous vanilla tree variants. Yes, please. And there we go. Also the bushes too. What I'm thinking, once we do have everything bobbed off here, we can just copy and paste this asset a few times, perhaps out in this, you know, field of the solar plant. Then almost have it as though it's perhaps a, you know, a higher voltage that's produced over here using these sort of larger bits of infrastructure, where there's kind of mass general low voltage solar farming happening, you know, on a mass scale using these classic solar panels. And again, seeing four of these assets together, it gives us an interesting pattern, doesn't it? It really does. Very happy with it. I'd also like to come back in again with a touch of intersection marking tool to give it a touch of decorative network. Again, classic farm fence. It's a match made in heaven. The solar and the farms. Farm fencing, even. I guess it is actually technically a farm as well, so right, solar farm fencing if you like. Then again, we'll grab these trees, and then we'll see if we can have them on a slightly larger spacing. And then we can just get a sense of what this might feel like as people begin to drive past it, with all the existing Ilos builds in the background as well, of course, now. Alright. It's cool, isn't it? It gives us a really interesting aesthetic. I'm a big fan of it. I think it's alright. So I'm also thinking about diving into the world of unique factories here, and I think that the clothing factory might actually be, surprisingly, a welcome addition. It sits really nicely within our sunken highway here, which I'm really happy with. It also kind of serves as a natural service extension of the office administration complex that we pieced together. It just happens to be the perfect space, which is, you know, if it fits, we sits, right? That's the motto. And indeed, it does fit. Cool, yeah. I think we'll leave it in and see how it develops on us anyway. So returning to the idea of the vanilla solar complex over this side, again, I'm going to come back into those dirt roads. I don't really want much tarmac within these spaces. Let's go for some more of this one unit action. And I really just want to come off road length now and give everyone a little hug with a 1 unit dirt road. And again, I think that's something I'm going to be happy with. Okay, it's a little bit quirky and different, isn't it? So we have been playing in Ilos with these assets for quite a long time as well, the power substations, which actually are power production assets in themselves. So what I'm thinking we can do is piece together a few of these and treat it almost as it is some sort of transformer space for the power area here. Again, factoring in the drive-by from the main arterial systems, you can see that, you know, it's power production vibes, isn't it? Has been a very power-heavy week on the channel this week. We did our vanilla power complex in Noob Sky earlier this week. So, welcome to... I mean, I guess the channel's living up to its name, right? We are overcharged egg after all. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. But what we'll also do is give this its own little dedicated industrial fencing. I think I know exactly which one I want to use. If we come in to find it and search for fence, there is a rather tasty vanilla number, long industrial fence, that's the one. And then we'll come on with a linear fence fill. And then why don't we just... Oh, it's actually got it on the front of it already, which is handy. And then we'll give it up to there. And then just give everyone an industrial fence hook. And then we'll probably also surface paint that concrete texture away again as well. And splendid. Cool. So again, there's lots of industrial prop detailing to be had during our detailing time lapse here. We'll have some crates and stuff out. We have a look and find it. And then come into our props, filter for industrial. We've got, you know, all this sort of stuff we can drop about. There's container packs we can place over here too. You know, our favourite crates and whatnot. There's various different designs we can do out here. Okay. But already, I think I'm mostly happy with that aesthetic. It's starting to sort of blend in as a solar plant now, isn't it? Really happy with it. And of course, these solar towers themselves will actually become, you know, part of our skyline. Especially if I'm looking at the west here too. It's really nice. You know, full access to the sun. If not for the planes actually threatening to block out the sun, there's not many of them. Ilos Sky Harbour is a busy airport. So I think what would also like to happen again, just sort of glancing over images of solar plants in real life. Solar fields kind of cut across into different complexes, so I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in a little dirt road here. We don't need the traffic light. Just let that go straight through. Again, we can already see a possibility for a very much appreciated pattern to come from mimicking the road frames that are out here as well. See, it's a distance of 19 units. Repeat that this side. We know that this one was 21, wasn't it? 20. Then we're down by 19. And then we're back in. Then we can just use move it to grab the buildings again. And before we know it, we should have some really sort of chunky solar farm vibes starting to develop here. And again, we can piece this out and, you know, we can fracture the Margrid frames a little bit so not everything's so, you know, perfectly gridded. Like we mentioned earlier, maybe we can bring this road out here. Then let's go ahead and find out where that next main Margrid frame should come from. It should be another 50 units down the road. Should take us to there. It's 51. We'll do it from this angle instead then. Can be sometimes finicky where the nodes land. So yeah, we'll do 50. And straight in, and then that's our connection there. Bring that through. That marks out another 100 by 100 Margrid frame. Again, which will start fading out of this pattern now. We're heading kind of north away from the Glendale area. But it can still be respected to some extent at least. Then what we will do is, let's just go ahead and... So this one should be 50 now, so we'll do 15 here. And then 15 here. Then we'll draw them as a connection. And then we'll just use node controller here. Once we hide play it. And then just going to offset everyone off by 24 meters or so. Right, and that just gives us another little connection in. And then we can use this to mark the end of the solar farm. You know, maybe the solar farm needs to expand. They can, you know, rent more land out here as the demands for the power grow. That, however, should be supplying vast amounts of power to the city now. So essentially we can delete all of our other power production assets. Yes, we do have a nuclear plant over here, which is placed temporarily. We can get a shot of that now. That should kill a few thousand of it. There we go. Of course, we've got some solar panels over here, but I do actually like these as part of the sort of facility area here, so we'll keep them in. And then really, let's just go ahead and have a look where else we've got power production assets. There shouldn't be too many of them. Just buildings have a solar panel to keep them powered once they were placed down. Yeah, that should be it. There's some stuff here that produces power as well. Yeah, okay, but we're producing way more than we need now. So let's come into our budget, and then we will reduce our power production by a fair amount. There we go. That drops it down to a sensible level, and we've still got plenty of headroom there as well. And then we'll also save a little bit of budget on our power plant upkeep as well, which will be really cool. Okay, so these guys are whinging of not enough electricity. Of course you are, in the power plant of all places. That's because we need a little something for you. So again, because we're playing with the factory, we might as well factor in some sort of storage warehouse or yard into the build. So if we draw another service road here, it actually looks like a small warehouse might just about fit in here. If not, it needs a little bit of finagling, maybe another new asset on this side. Which I think we will do, because we'll prioritise the warehouse. It's going to add into those sort of, industrial storage vibes for equipment and, maintenance that happens for a solar plant. This is where it's stored. And then we can use those office assets again from the pack that we're playing from Avanya. And that one fits in perfectly. Yes, it does, and it still maintains the lip on the building for us. That's wonderful. Very happy with that. What we will do during our detail time lapse is just finagle some more solar panel patterns out here as well. So they should look quite cute come the end. We'll check what the plant needs. Crops, plastics, and animal products. Okay, so we'll give it a plastics storage here, and then we'll just see how it does from the end, hopefully. See how we're doing for electricity now. Very nearly there. Okay, let's just go ahead and throw down one for the time being so it jumps through. There we go. Everyone's happy with that. There we go. Cool. So we've now got a functioning factory within the complex itself as well, which is going to help add to those industrial vibes. Otherwise, we're not doing too badly at the minute. It's definitely on its way, isn't it? The frames are starting to develop. How much of a difference does a filled storeyard make to a build, everyone? Absolutely love the aesthetic of these. Those little props coming in. Yes, please. Very nice. So this is phone up now. And last thing I wanted to have a look at before we move into something of a detailing time-lapse today is to actually come in and build a connection over to the other side of the Margaret frames. So we're going to do this by grabbing a... It's probably best, maybe a 7-lane asymmetrical. I think so, it's possible. If not, we'll go for the 7-lane asymmetrical with concrete. We'll draw this out by 10 units first. Then we're just going to come straight under the highway. And then what we will do is just grab all of these nodes. I just want to grab the highway nodes here. Then we're just going to elevate up ever so slightly. What's about there? So again, looking sort of in and around Phoenix as to how sort of these interchanges lie in this part of the city. Weirdly enough, not every single highway or not every single sort of bridge or connection over the highway actually connects into it. So we don't really need to do an elevated bridge here or some sort of interchange. We could come do some sort of slip ramps maybe at some point, which I think we will do. But we'll worry about that as we come over this side of the map, or maybe add them in the detailing time lapse. I've also going a little bit now with multi-slope, and then we'll get a nice gradual slope here as we come off of the elevated section. There we go. Of course, let's give all this a forest brush as well. So having these new networks in here should really give us, for lack of a better phrase, a sense of interconnectivity. And if we can just come out from here and then maybe see if we can stretch out that connection. And again, we use a little node control trick here. A nice 24-meter offset on these sharper angles usually does everyone a world of good. There we go. Some happy offsets and some connected frames. I'd be interested to see how many people actually come in and use this. And then really a lot of this space here is going to be filled, again, when we look back over Phoenix, we see a huge sort of distribution network. So, once we've got these sorts of assets in here, we can maybe come in with, a large warehouse where it's appropriate. Maybe up this side. Even spin it around if we like. And then, we got to start piecing together all these huge warehouse assets here now to make up that sort of distribution complex. And of course, what we will have eventually here is the big kind of western downtown industrial rail yard, which will certainly be its own build. So we've got that to look forward to as well. Otherwise, that should give us more connectivity. I think definitely some slip ramps here as well would be most appropriate, wouldn't it? And then whilst we have this warehouse in as well, we might as well store something else for the factory. which will have to be animal products. So we'll store this over here as well. At least make them somewhat functional. However, guys, that does feel like a good point for a detailed time lapse. So we've got a bunch of work to do here, including carrying on expanding these solar field assets in various different patterns, and then fenced up by a kind of internal sort of collector road that kind of passes through the solar farm. Lots more fencing and overgrowth work to do in kind of the open desert spaces. Repeated tree patterns to bring in. I think I'm also going to possibly toy with the idea of a little bit of grass in here as well. If it's not at all too bold. Again, we'll have to sort of wait and see. Maybe sort of this open area can be a little bit grassy. It helps those trees settle a little bit more, doesn't it? Okay. And of course, get our car parking in. To keep everyone around moving and happy. Then hopefully come the end, we should have quite a convincing solar power complex. It's really not that industrial, this one, compared to a lot of the power plants we've done on the channel before. A lot of them are quite obviously industrial and nuclear or sort of coal and pollutive. But this one, it's very modern and it's super refined. It's a distinct look, isn't it? Especially from the ultimate view of the main grid frames here too. Cool. Super. Otherwise, let's detail Ilos's solar power plant and then we'll be right back. Okay, Brum, let's have a detailing review, shall we? So, over by the elevated highways, we just thrown in a really simple diamond slip system with some basic IMT, again, inspiration for lane configurations and markings taken from Phoenix. Really similar setup to what we did over on this diamond interchange here, not for a little less fancy with its markings, but you know, same sort of general on and off ramp system over by the older farms. We have mass repeated the solar panel pattern and it's come out really nicely. These are really fantastic assets from Ben, so if you're looking to make a solar farm, there's a few better on the workshop than these. Again, they are linked down below if you want to come and grab them. We've also got some industrial prop and indeed farmland, vanilla farmland detail in here too, with some props around the edge of some upgraded industrial fencing. I decided that the farm wasn't quite the vibe that I wanted. It is quite a subtle industrial area like we mentioned, but yeah, I was feeling the industrial fencing instead of the farming. But it came out really nicely, right? Those mass solar fields are such a cool aesthetic to have in a power plant like this. So really happy with this, and then it continues onto the other side of the arterial road, where again there's another little sort of maintenance shack out in and amongst the solar fields. Back at the home base, we have also added in kind of like a little solar panel maintenance yard. You know, there's some tools and things stored over here to help repair them. You know, if and when they break down or they just need general maintenance, then they have a space for it here, alongside some of Avandia's classic industrial assets over here as well, just to help bring that vibe home. And then we've fused in a silo into the side of the factory, because it does want to store crops, so we can store that over there now. Furthermore, we have brought in the Ilos dry belt all around the sort of high voltage solar fields, if you like. Like how you can guess, you can pretend, you know, this is that higher voltage project that we talked about, so I think I'm on board with that general idea. And then more industrial prop detailing over this side with some finagled assets in. This one has actually upgraded. It's not supposed to be the one, so I'm going to have to change it out. It's supposed to be this one, but back to back. But it's obviously not ticked to be historical. And then yeah, lots more repeated tree patterns around the entire edge of the facility, which really kind of marks it out. It's very weird building kind of like a super green power plant like this. It's a really cool aesthetic to take. Massively happy with it. Of course, you can see the reflections of the clouds against the currently cloudless sky, of course. And then we've taken some inspiration from Imperator as well, and started to include some more of these really kind of weird zonings that we see in Phoenix, where we can go from industrial, residential, or, you know, commercial into immediate farm field on the corner of a road like this, with again some fence network IMT stuff too. Then some services around. There's a fire station over here, and then there's a police station on the corner as well. Yeah, these are the same fields that we also used in the wider farmland over there. And then we've also brought in a little bit of signage too. We've got Suncorp with some repeated rock patterns and just drawn out some bright colourful flowers, where we do also have some tasteful after dark lights in here as well. A little bit of orange just to help it pop against the highway. So, you know, it's just more highway decoration rather than doing chain link fencing and dry belt everywhere. You know, we've got something a little bit different on this stretch now. It's been nice to return to this part of the Margaret. It's been a long time since I've been over here. Of course, all the downtown and the mountain and Lake Havasu and the rest of the Margaret has formed since we were over here. So it's nice to see it fill out a little bit more as we move a little bit more industrial and rural away from the sort of Glendale Margaret inspired area. It fits in, doesn't it? I think we take a look from elsewhere in the suburbs. You know, it's a really distinct little pop of height, isn't it? The solar plant now in Ilos. And of course it maintains a view to the downtown and fits in quite nicely with the skyline here. Really happy with that. Yes, please. However, guys, that is going to do it for today. I would like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, likes, comments and shares below help bring more people to my channel. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, and please feel free to leave a dislike as well. Really weird build to put together, this one, but I think it turned out quite nicely. Like I mentioned, kind of weird playing with a super clean looking, sleek modern power plant complex, and the first time trying to put it together like a major solar farm like this. And I'm really happy with the aesthetics that we've managed to put together, and it's a nice blend out of sort of the main Margaret frames back into a more rural Ilos on this side of the map. Please do hang around for some cinematics, of course. We always enjoy the nighttime view to the skyline. I'm sure it'll be well worth it. Otherwise, we'll shut up, and I will leave it there. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.